Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. So today we're going to take a look at the goalkeepers in FPL. Not only which ones are the best options overall, are there any value picks? Because they have the lowest ceiling of points in FPL out of any position, can we save some money to invest elsewhere in your squad? Or is it better off just to go with the obvious choice and save yourself any potential rotation headache? As always, we've got the data and the charts to help explain what I'm trying to say. And if you do enjoy the style and the video and the channel, please do subscribe. Honestly, the support in pre-season, I know I say it every video, it has been amazing. I really am grateful for it. On Saturday, we had 15 new subscribers just on Saturday, which is amazing, right? So if you can help us continue to grow, I would really appreciate it. Let's take a look at the first chart, and here we can see that this is all the goalkeepers in FPL, so or all the real potential options at least. And we've got their total points on the left side and their number of starts on the bottom. And as we can see, we've got some sort of separation here. So there are four clear options for me in FPL in terms of goalkeepers, and they are the more expensive ones, but they're not all of the most expensive ones. As you can see with the price points, quite a lot of 5 million goalkeepers and 5.5 million goalkeepers are dropping off. And the top four are Jordan Pickford, Matt Sells, David Raya, and Dean Henderson. And really, if you've got the money to spend, I would just go and get one of these. And, they might not be the highest scorer overall, but they are probably all going to be in the top 5 or 6 scoring goalkeepers in FPL. And you can just put them in your team and forget about them because the last thing you want to do is spend a free transfer on a goalkeeper. There'll be loads of other issues in your squad later down the line. Now, I did think it was interesting just to highlight here this Edison and Allison sort of low points total, low starts. Now, they are playing for great teams, but they're not able to sort of stay fit or they get rotated during the season. Last year Edison had Ortega, Allison had Kelleher, and this year he's got Mamadashvili signed from Valencia. And there's just that competition there. So for the price at 5.5 million, I just wouldn't go there. As you'll see on future charts in this video, they are still good goalkeepers, but I think the data can trick you a little bit as to whether they are worth it. I do think there's potential to be had elsewhere, though. And, if you did want an outside pick, Ramsdale, he's just signed for Newcastle. He'll be their number one goalkeeper. And Robert Sanchez for Chelsea. As long as Chelsea don't sign someone else, 5 million, he's a really popular pick this season. And that's where these charts do come in handy because they can highlight these players who are maybe been a little bit overlooked and could have a turnaround season. If they started a bit less last season and they've had a change of situation or another goalkeeper's been sold, they could be a new option this year. So let's take a look at the points per game. So this is their points for last season against their number of starts. And immediately we can see that Kelleher was right at the top. So per game last season, he was the highest scoring goalkeeper. He just wasn't high on the totals because he didn't play enough. He was at Liverpool. Now he's at Brentford. He's going to start every game. So if you wanted a cheap goalkeeper that was going to start, I think he is the one for me in terms of potential. Now, he's not at Liverpool anymore, so he's very unlikely to get 4.5 points per game. Brentford, they're just not going to keep the same level of clean sheets. And so therefore you have to bear that in mind. You can't just look at this chart and say, I'm going to get Keller in and I'm guaranteed 4.5 points on average per game. Brentford just aren't Liverpool. Another thing we can see here is that Edison and Allison have shot up. So a bit like what we said in the previous chart, they're not getting those high points totals because of the lack of starts. When they do play, they're really reliable. It's just they're not reliable enough to actually start every game. So again, I would just bear in mind that this chart is not something that you want for goalkeeper. You need them to be starting every game because chances are your sub goalkeeper is super cheap. So finally on this chart, again, we can see this group of four goalkeepers just at the top, played every game, still doing quite well in points per game, but there is a bit of separation here for Jordan Pickford. Just a little bit. You're talking about half a point a game, if that, really, between him and someone like a Dean Henderson. and it goes Pickford, Matt Sells, Raya, and Henderson. So if you're looking at a keeper and you just want that security, once again, these four stand out above the rest. So the final chart we're going to look at today is the points per million. So we've done this for all of the other positions as well. And again, this shows how many points per million you get for your money. So this is the points they scored last season against their pricing this season. And what stands out for me is again, you've got these four at the top. So not only are you getting a high amount of points and reliable starts, you're also getting a good amount of points for your money. So Matt Sells has overtaken Jordan Pickford. So if you were on a budget, I would probably recommend Matt Sells. I think Nottingham Forest have good fixtures. I also like Dean Henderson as well as a 5 million shout. But I think you get what you pay for with Pickford and David Raya. They are just a bit more consistent. I think, Matt Sells had a great season last season, but there's no guarantee that Nottingham Forest can replicate that with being in Europe. And I think the same can be said for Dean Henderson. It might be great at the start of the year, and it depends when you're wildcarding, of course. But ultimately, it's, you get what you pay for with the others. I also think it depends who's in your defence. So, for instance, if you had Dean Henderson in goal, you might have a Nottingham Forest defender in your defence, and vice versa, right? If you've got Matt Sells in goal, you might have a Crystal Palace defender in your defence. I wouldn't have, a Nottingham Forest goalkeeper and a Nottingham Forest defender. I just think that's too many eggs in one basket. I would split your team. So it depends on what combination you're going to go for. So, for instance, in my team, I'm splitting between, not being sure about Jordan Pickford and Dean Henderson. But it depends because I can save money by going for Pickford and Matt Gahey than I could do for going for Dean Henderson and James Tarkowski says. I'd save money there overall. So have a look at your wider combination of players. And finally, we've just got Robert Sanchez here again. I do think that with him and Edison and Allison, again, I don't necessarily see the risk. I know Robert Sanchez is doing really well for Chelsea at the moment, and at 5 million, he is quite tempting. But now that they've lost Levi Colwell, I don't necessarily see that it's worth investing that extra money in Chelsea defence, when there's someone like a Matt Sells or a Dean Henderson who just play for more solid defences overall. I think I'd rather save my Chelsea position from goal and use the elsewhere in my squad, like a Cole Palmer, João Pedro, Cucurella. You could get two other Chelsea players and then leave that third Chelsea slot free to potentially sign someone else in a few game weeks. So yeah, that's the video. Let me know what you think. Which goalkeeper are you going for? Does it impact the rest of your team as well? If you've got any questions, put them in the comments. Always great to hear from you. And thank you very much for listening. Mini League code is on the title of the video. And go check out my other videos on the playlist as well. It should be on the screen right about now. Hopefully you're looking forward to the start of FPL this game week and I will see you in the next one.